Okay, this is the Chapter 1 part of the midterm review. So the first question talks about the diagram over here to the right. So here's where we're looking, right here. And it says name 2 points that are coplanar. So first off, what does coplanar mean? So coplanar means that 2 points are on the same plane. Okay, so we have 2 planes over here. We have this plane right here, the shaded plane, that's one plane. And then we have another one that is the unshaded or the white plane. So you need points that are on the same plane. So you have some choices. So there's a whole bunch of choices. If I wanted to go with the points that are on the shaded or the gray plane, so I'm going to change back to red. Okay, to go for those points, look what's on the gray. I mean, clearly J and K are there, but then what else is there? Well, H and I are on both planes. So I'm going to go ahead and add H and I as well. So those red points are all on the shaded plane. Now let's change to green, and let's look at what points are on the other plane. So you don't need to list all of these, but I want to tell you what the question is and how you could answer it. So if you had any 2 of these, you would be correct. Okay, then what if you wanted to focus instead on the unshaded plane? So the unshaded plane has 5 points on it. Do you see the 5 points? Clearly, I'm going to list them up here. We have E, we have G, we have F, but then don't forget that you have H and I because they are on both planes. So if you wanted to name any 2 of these that are listed in green, you would be correct. All right, so that's how you handle that one. Okay, next, the next question says, are points H, I, and J. So let's see where those points are. Here's H, here's I, and here's J. Are they coplanar? Well, didn't I just say that those 3 points, so here's I, here's H, and here is, well, actually, I'm going to go this way. I, H, and J, those are all on the shaded plane. So yes, you can say that those are indeed coplanar. So you would say yes. Okay, so let me get rid of some of this writing. Not that writing, but okay, so we said yes. So this was a yes. Okay, next, identify a pair of opposite rays. So opposite rays are rays that have the same center point, but that head off in a different direction. So let's look at some opposite rays. So I'm looking at this line right here. So that line right there that I highlighted it in yellow. So I think we can grab 2 rays. So let me just get rid of the yellow so you can see it again. So what if we started and looked at ray EG? Now, in order for them to be opposite, I have to write them so that they're opposite. So writing them opposite means if I say EG, so we'll go back to blue. So if I write EG, so here's EG, EG. Okay, so I'm going to have the arrow go this way so that it's starting at G and going over to E. Okay, so that's one ray. Now, if you start at G again and go to F, you are going the opposite direction. So look, so that means my starting point for the first ray is at G, because that's where the arrow's starting. My starting point for the second ray is at G as well. That makes them a candidate to be opposite. And then if you look, if you go from G directly to the right, you have F. If you go from G directly to the left, you have E. They are opposites. All right, moving on to the next one. Identify a line. Now there are lots of lines in this figure, so you have many options. So I listed a whole bunch of options in the answer key on the last page of this booklet, but let's just look at one of them here. How about EF? If I want to use the line EF, and there it is right there, so the line EF, I would have to tell you that it's a line by putting the correct notation above. Now I'm all set. So the line EF is a line that's in this figure. Okay, next one, number 5, identify the intersection of two planes. So that means I need the shaded and the unshaded. Where do they intersect? Planes always intersect, or I should say a pair of planes always intersect at a line. So that line is the line HI. Okay, so pairs of planes intersect at lines. So I had to write HI, and I need to put the arrow above it. Okay, we're set there too. Okay, now, let me get rid of this as we focus on question number 6. So looking at question 6, what does it say? It says the intersection of, it looks like 3 lines. Okay, line EF, so where is EF? EF is right here. And then line HI, which is right here. And then line JG, which is right here. So what I'm seeing is they intersect at this point right here. So let me just get rid of all those notations. And do you see how G, this point G, marks the intersection of those 3 lines that I just went through and highlighted? So my intersection is a point G. Okay, so we're done with that first section. So now we're no longer looking at that figure. We're instead looking at this figure right here. And it says find BC using the ruler postulate. So in math, whenever you can get an equation, you want to do that. Okay, so I need to find BC. So I know that if I take AB right here and BC and add them, I will get the entire sum. So I'm looking for only BC, which is right here. So far, what do I have? I have the entire length, which is 54, and I have a little piece of it, which is 25. So if I say 54 minus 25, the answer, which is 29, is indeed BC. So that is 29. And you can check your work by saying, according to this, I know that AB plus BC equals AC. Okay, so let's make sure everything works. They gave us 25 here. We just found 29. And if I add them together, I see I should get 54. And if I do the math, I do get that. So my answer of 29 is correct. All right, so now we're going to work on 8, 9, and 10. And those are absolute value type problems. But we have 2 options to work with those. So the first option is just to count. Because I see I have a number line, and they're going up by 1s, I can just count. So if I'm looking for the length of CD, I start here at C, and I start counting 1, 2, 2, 3, and then here's 4. Okay, so how long is that? That length is 4. So that's one way to do it. The other way, that's more mathematical, which would be a good thing to do as well, is to take the absolute value of, okay, what's C? C is -4 minus what is D? D is 0. And what do we get if we do that? So -4 minus 0 is still -4. So what is the absolute value of -4? Well, what does this absolute mean? It means that you take out the number and you don't take the sign. So the absolute value of -4 is 4, and it's the same answer I just got a second ago. So that's why CD is 4. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video for a second, let you catch up, and I'm going to erase what I have, and we'll continue. Okay, so now we're ready to do question 9, and I have a little bit more clean space for us to work. So question 9 says they want to know how long the distance AE is. So we're going to go from A, which is right here, all the way to E. So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I counted 11 hash marks in between A to E. So I counted that one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11. That's why I got 11. So that's the counting method. But a better method is the math method. So let's do that. We'll get rid of all our counting. And we know the answer was 11 that way. So now let's do the counting. Let's do the math part. So to get AE, I say I'm going to use absolute value. So your first letter is A. So negative 9 is the value for A minus 2. Okay, that's going to be negative 11. And to get absolute value, you take out the number without the sign, and that's going to be 11. So there you go. Those two answers matched. So for CD, we had 4, and for AE, we had 11. Okay, so let's do our next problem. So our next problem is BE, and so we'll get rid of all our markings. Whoops, didn't want to do that. So let's get rid of some markings. So I'm going to get rid of these. All right. And let's get rid of this and that. And BE is what we want to find. So I don't need this anymore either. So to get BE, I'm going to go from this hash mark all the way to here. So if you count the hash marks again, I start at B and I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I get a value of 8 doing the counting. Now we can do the same thing without counting and doing absolute value. So I'm saying to get that length, I'm going to say negative 6 minus 2. That gives me negative 8. And the absolute value of negative 8 equals 8, and they both check. Okay, so that's the end of most of the first page. We've got a couple of more problems to do. So I'm going to pause it for a second. I'm going to come back and we'll do 11. Okay, so here's 11. They're asking for the length of AC. And so what I see here is that I have a number, I have an expression, and I have an expression. Now, I have no information about B. I do not know whether it's the midpoint or not, so you never want to assume anything in geometry. They have not told us it is the midpoint, so therefore we should never assume it is. So let's work not knowing about B at all. What I do know is that this little piece right here, which is 14, so 14 plus this little piece, which is 3x minus 4, that has got to equal this piece, because that's the whole piece, and that's 4x plus 4. So 4x plus 4. So what we're going to do now is combine like terms. So on this side of the equation, I have two sets of numbers, the 14 and the minus 4. So I'm going to combine 14 and minus 4 and rewrite it as 10 plus 3x. And that's going to equal 4x plus 4. All right, now my goal is to have x's on one side and numbers on the other. So let's move our x. So since 4 is bigger than 3, I'm going to move the 3 over here. 4x minus 3x will get me 1x. This is gone now. Okay, so now I want to move 4, do the opposite operation. So it was added, I'm subtracting it, and then subtract it over here from 10. 10 minus 4 is 6, So on the left-hand side, I have 6. Bring down your equal sign, and I have 6 equals x. So they want to know what AC is. AC is this whole big piece right here. So currently, I see that AC equals 4x plus 4. That's an expression with one variable in it. The variable that we just solved is the variable that I see. So put your variable of 6, which is what the solution was to x, where x was, and then let's complete the problem. So 4 times 6 is 24, plus 4 more, and that is 28. So we have successfully found that AC is 28. Okay, let's go on and we'll work on question 12. Alright, so for question 12 it says, it tells us something right above, so don't forget to read all the information they're giving you. It says in the diagram, M is the midpoint. Okay, that's huge to know. So right here, M is the midpoint. That means it divides that line segment PR exactly in half. And they want me to find the indicated length, and they want to find MR. So here's MR right here. So if we're going to find MR, let's look at this. MR equals negative 2x plus 36. Okay, I don't know what x is, so I can't find that. Oh, I'm also noticing that they did some decorating for us. So these little hash marks right here and right here, they're telling us that those segments are equal. So if they hadn't told us this sentence right here, I still would have known that M was the midpoint because of the hash marks. So make sure that you understand that I can either tell you in words that are written or with little hash marks that indicate something on a figure. Okay, so it looks like since I don't have a value for the whole big piece, I can set PM equal to MR, and I can solve for my x and then plug it in for MR. So I have a strategy now. So go ahead and we're going to write out 4x minus 12, and that has to equal negative 2x plus 36. All right, so we've got to do some math here, but that's okay. Add 2x to both sides. Add 2x. So I'm going to continue down here at the bottom. So what am I getting? I'm getting 6x minus 12 equals 36. Okay, so that's where I am so far. Okay, the next step is to get your x's by themselves and your y's by themselves, and your variables, your numbers by themselves, excuse me. So I end up, that cancels, 36 and 12 is 48. So now I have 6x equals 48. Divide both sides by 6. And I'm left with no space, but it's x equals 8. Okay, I'm not done. All I know so far is that x equals 8, but I go back and look at my problem, and my problem does not say find x. My problem says find MR. So MR is negative 2x plus 36. So I'm going to take my x, and I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to plug in the 8 that I just solved for it, plus 36. So what do I get? Negative 2 times 8 is negative 16. So I have negative 16 plus 36. So that's going to be 20. So MR is 20. So if I wanted to find more pieces, I could, but I don't really need to because I know this is 20. If I wanted to figure out what the other half is, it had to be 20 because of the fact that I have a midpoint, and therefore the whole piece PR is 40. So I could ask you many questions about this one problem, so make sure that you always answer the question that was asked. Okay, in this video, or this last problem that we're going to do on this page, it says use the given information to find the indicated angle measure. So they are giving you that ABC, so that's the entire angle, so that's this big angle right here, that is 94 degrees. Then they say they would like you to figure out what is the measure, that's what that M means, of CBD. So that means they want this little angle right in here. So I see I have another angle on the top of it right here that also has variables in it. So I have to figure out what my x is, so I need to come up with an equation. So the equation I want to come up with is this. How does 94 equals, because 94 is the whole big angle, it equals one angle, which is 3x plus 15, plus the other angle. All right, so I have numbers on both sides, and I have x's on one side. So why don't we take our first step and combine the x's. So 3x plus another x is 4x. Okay, now let's combine the numbers. So 7 and 15 is what? 22, right? So plus 22. So now I have a two-step problem. Subtract 22, subtract 22, and I'm getting 72. So I have 4x equals 72, and that means that x must be what? 18? So x equals 18. So 4 times 8 is 32, and the 2 carry the 3. 4 times 1 is 4, and 3 is 7. So yes, excuse me, x equals 18. But I'm not done. They didn't ask me to find x. They want the measure of CBD. So here's where you have to be careful and make sure that after you do all this good work, that you are really answering the question that they're asking you and not just stopping too early. So if I know that angle CBD is going to be x plus 7, and I just found x is 18, then angle CBD must be 18 plus 7, which is 25, and that's what I put for my answer. Okay, so this is the end of the first video on the page 1.